Hey guys, Mike from Boyer Bows here. Alright, so today we're going to start off by doing the opening, I don't know what you call it, opening number, opening video on how to make an Osage orange longbow, and from a stave. And this is the finished version. This is a Lakota style Osage orange. You can see the bright, nice yellow on it. This one's not quite done. Got some pseudo Native American design on it, some flip tips, as I showed you in another video. Backed with rawhide. We're going to actually be backing this bow with sinew, and I'm going to show you the process. What we're going to do now is go over a quick thing about what to look for in a stave. If you're ordering them through the mail, what to read about from whoever you're ordering it from, as well as the tools you're going to need and the basic startup, that how I start the thing off. Alright, so let's put this bow down. And let's switch positions here. That's pretty good. Okay, so this is an Osage orange stave. It's a piece of log, basically. What I want you to see here are the rings. Let's see if you can actually, I'm going to move the camera, guys. I'm sorry if you're getting seasick. I can't find my tripod at the moment. But let's look at the rings here. Now you can see they're nice. They're not perfect, but they have a nice sort of letter C or upside down letter U or whatever you want to call it. And that's very that's something I want to look for in a stave. Now, what are the alternatives? I mean, you say, well, a tree is a tree. They have growth rings. Well, they're not always uniform. Sometimes they're going in snaky, wavy patterns, and that does not mean the bow is going to be snaky. It just means it's going to make it very. It's going to make reducing the back of the bow to a single ring a little more difficult, because you're going to have a lot of uneven, hills and valleys in weird places. So the more uniform of a curve or a letter, or like a letter C, you can get out of this, the better. Okay? Now let's look at the other side real quick. Again, not the best. You see how they're a little bit more wavy, but for me, that's fine. Also, these growth rings are very close together up here at the top, and this is where I'm going to reduce down to my single ring. If this is your first time attempting to reduce to a single ring, you might want to find a stave with wider rings like this. Okay, it's going to be a lot more forgiving, because the amount of wood you're going to have to reduce to dig down to get that single ring, you won't. It's going to be a lot harder to violate that dark brown, that dark yellow, or whatever you want to call it, is what your is the wood you want. The light color is, I called it the wrong thing. The light color is early growth, and the dark color is late growth. That early growth is going to be real spongy, soft, and it's going to feel really nice and crunchy when it comes off with the draw knife. And this other part is going to feel like dense wood. But you can see here how little room for error you have compared to down here. Now for me, I'm probably going to take like a happy medium. I'm going to come down to maybe that 1, 2, 3, 4 rings down. Not a lot of room there, but I am backing this with sinew, so I'm not going to be too concerned. Now here's another thing. If you're backing a bow with sinew, you don't really need to take it down to a single ring. It's not a requirement, or not nearly as much of a requirement as it would be if you weren't putting any backing on the bow at all. I like reducing to a single ring. It's just one of the parts of the bow build I really like to do. And also I figure the stronger the bow, the better. Clearly the more insurance I put into this bow to keep it from breaking, the happier I will be in the long run. And maybe the heavier the bow can be, but it's just, you know, it's a little bit more insurance. Alright, let's take a look at this particular stave. Now, when you go on, unless you have logs growing where you live, which I don't have Osage trees where I live. I don't have many good bowwood trees where I live. I have mesquite and maybe juniper, but I still have to go out into the wilderness, and this is a desert here, which means the mesquite forests are around, but they're usually protected lands. And so for me to run out there with a saw, I got to be really quick to get out there before any kind of Department of Forest or whatever shows up to say, what are you doing? I'm not usually killing the tree, I'm usually taking a limb, but most of the bows I make are either from hickory boards or from Osage staves. And I get these on eBay, guys. Now, don't go around. Now, if you all go out and buy staves on eBay and I don't have any left, I'm going to be pissed off. But save a couple staves for me if you start doing this. What can I tell you about the stave? The stave is 55 inches, which is pretty short. It's going to be about 52, 53 inches knock to knock when we're all done. And if it's a bend through the handle bow, that would mean the maximum draw length I could get would be about 26 inches. Technically, what you would do, if you have a bend through the handle bow, your draw length will be half of the total. The total length of the bow will support half the distance in draw length. So a 52-inch bow, knock to knock, bend through the handle, 26 inches of draw. This is not going to be a bend through the handle bow, though. This is going to be a stiff handle bow, which is going to reduce that a lot more if I wasn't using a backing. Because I am using a backing, I'm going to make up for that difference. It's especially sinew. It's going to allow me to bend the bow a lot more than I would otherwise. Let's look at this stave a little bit. Now, this is one of the things to look for on eBay is you want to hear a couple of things. Straight, which is always good. This one has a bit of reflex to it because this is the belly of the bow here. This is going to be the back. You can see it's slightly bent like this, and that's going to work in my favor, guys, so I don't mind that at all. It doesn't have any real snakiness to it. It's pretty straight. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a wave on the side, but that probably won't stay there by the time the bow is done. And another thing that you really want to look for, especially if you're just starting out, guys, is look for a bow where the person has said there's no twist in the wood, or very, very little twist in the wood. Twist will mess you up. It's something that once you get a little bit more bows under your belt, you'll be able to work with a little bit. You can heat bend out the twist, you can steam bend out the twist, or you can live with the twist. You may lose some performance with the more twist you get, the little bit less performance you might get, or you might not. It just depends on the wood. The danger of twist is that the bow, when you bend it back, it doesn't bend straight back. It'll start to go off to a side, one side or the other, or even if it's enough, the string won't stay on the knock. So start, with everything in as much of your own favor as you can, and try to see if the person who is listing the wood mentions if there's any twist in it or not. A good source for bow wood will say will mention twist. The other thing you want to know is that how long ago was the wood cut, or was the tree cut down, or whatever. The wood has to be dry. It has to be seasoned, and if you can force dry it in a heat box, but that can lead to other problems, and you also have to have a heat box in the first place. So I recommend finding one that's at least 9 months cut, sealed on one side with some kind of shellac, lacquer, polyurethane, something to keep it from checking. This one was cut pretty recently. So I don't think that we're going to be able to finish this particular stave. But what I'm going to do is take this to a certain level and then finish it on another stave that I have that's been dried out. Just to show you the two different, this will be the first half of the build, the other stave will finish it with the second half of the build. I'm trying to think of what else. When you're looking at the wood, I already talked about the hills and valleys, but Osage is normally not a very straight wood. It can get snaky, it can get, but let's look at the grain. See, it looks pretty good here. It's got a little bit of a upswing and then a back downswing there, and then all of a sudden, boop, there you go. You got a nice valley there, and then it sort of straightens out again the rest of the way. Now, you're going to have to be careful here. That's going to leave kind of a lump in your bow. You can't just take it to a bandsaw and cut straight through that. Now, the good thing is that's pretty much where my handle's going to be. I'm not going to be too worried about that. It's just going to be a bump in the handle, but I don't have to worry about that area bending. But it could give me trouble if that were anywhere on the limb in question. That could give me some trouble in the bend, because obviously these curves are going to make it either bend more or bend less, whatever, depending on what kind of bow I'm making. So what we're going to do first, guys, is I'm going to reduce the back of the bow to a single ring. And the other thing I do to start off is I usually just take some sandpaper and just sand this whole thing down. So Osage is very splintery. It's good. It's really good. See, speaking of which, very splintery, and you know, if that were my finger, I'd be a little pissed off right now. Nice little jobby right in the thumb there. But so I like to get a smooth surface just so I don't scream and curse because I put a nice shard of wood in my fingers, right through the glove sometimes, and just to get rid of some of these more dramatically I'm going to hurt you areas. Alright, so that's the beginning. I'm going to come back. The next video will be me reducing the back of the bow, and we'll see you soon. Mike from Boyer Bows.